And today we link with him where he's spending lockdown in Brazil. Hello, Nick. How are you?
Hello, Leah.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm
and
fine.
happy VE Day.
Happy VE Day. Same to you. Same to you. We've got a very special photo to share, which you kindly sent me earlier this morning, of your dad. And perhaps, perhaps we can share it with our viewers. But could you tell us where your dad was 75 years ago today?
I believe he was based up in Scotland, and he's the second standing at the back on the left. I think also he was still a teenager at the time.
Yes.
Or late teens. And I think you can see behind is a Lancaster.
Yes, that's amazing. Amazing. He must be pleased. I mean, he would have been pleased if he knew that you were mentioning
it.
He
would, definitely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And actually, I think, it's sort of a pertinent, talking about markets, just diving in, it's somewhat pertinent to think about VE Day history. And, a theory that we've been expounding on lately, which is, I've taken an optimistic look at the world. And I think when we get through this, which will probably be sooner rather than later, but I'm not talking about months, I'm talking about over the course of the next couple of years, I'm looking at the reconfiguration of the world order. And what does that mean for economies? How is it going to be? How is it going to develop, and what's the implications for the markets?
Yes.
Because I do believe that there is going to be a decoupling between China and the Western democracies, in which I obviously would include some of the Asians like Japan. And I think this will be led by what I've defined as the Anglosphere. And the reason why I'm focused on it that way is that I believe that reconfiguration is, and the insourcing, the return of industries from the Chinese outsourcing will be led by the Anglospheric countries. And I'm looking at primarily the US, UK, Australia, and will include Japan in that. And the reason I say this, and it's interesting that, I'm talking to you in Malta with Maltese history. The reason I say this is creative destruction. We've gone through one hell of a bout of creative destruction right now. Involves the rebuilding, and rebuilding is typically led and most easily led with a common law jurisdiction. And I think you've seen the implications of a non-common law jurisdiction coming out of Germany in the Karlsruhe decision.
Yes.
That really creates an existential crisis.
Yes.
In the European Union. So that's where we're going on that. And in that respect, I tend to believe that the Anglospheric markets will outperform. And funnily enough, I was looking at a chart this morning that showed that, if I can pull it up actually, it showed me that really the US market has outperformed the European Union markets since the crisis completely.
Yes, in spite of all the job losses, right?
Yes, in spite of all the job losses. And in fact, you can go back to the 2008 crisis and the US continues to outperform. I don't buy into, there is a narrative that's building up that all this fiscal largesse and the QE and the central banks ultimately will be the end of the US dollar's hegemony. I don't buy that at all. Absolutely. The reason I don't buy it is everybody needs dollars, hence the swap lines, hence the repo lines for all the major central banks.
Yes.
There is nothing out there to replace it. So we have to be people. I go broader than just US-led. We have to be Anglospheric-led. And that's something I'm as a thesis, I'm continuing to work on right now.
Yes. Can we touch a bit on the oil price? And how do you foresee that working out eventually?
Well,
Because
interestingly enough, discussing that yesterday, there's an interesting statistic I was told yesterday that you can't buy a new truck in the US currently. There's no inventory. And I'm looking at trucking. You see, you have an elasticity of logistics in trucking. You don't have it in the railway network in the US. And so I'm looking at, as the US economy gets going, you will see that reflected in logistics via trucking more than railway. And as it gets going, I also feel that you won't see I think that you're going to see people driving a lot more in the US, including holidays. So I think what you've got is you've had destruction, well, not destruction, you've had a cap on supply, limits on inventory. You had that strange negative oil price, idiosyncratic move for the May contract, where we went negative. I'm not sure you're going to see that again. And ultimately, I would anticipate crude oil, the US measure, somewhere around $60 next year. And the reason I say that is all you need, you've had the supply disruption, followed by along with the demand disruption. And all you need is a little bit of demand pickup